She packed my bags last night, pre-flight.
0 hour, 9 a.m.
And I'm gonna be high as a kite by then.
I miss the Earth so much. I miss my wife.
It's lonely out in space.
On such a timeless flight.
Hello, this is Rob Vincent.
And Gila Drazen.
And on this very special episode of Modern Technology Watches, we're doing things a little differently, aren't we?
We are doing things a little bit differently because, as you can hear, we are not in our home studio right now. We are outside.
We are outside of our local cinema.
Where we have tickets to see Rocketman.
Rocketman,
which neither of us has yet seen.
Nope. Instead of one of us showing the other a movie that we are familiar with, we are seeing this together for the first time.
From scratch.
And I have been looking forward to seeing this movie.
I have also been looking forward to seeing this movie.
And I think let's just go in because we're a bit short of time.
Yes.
And we will talk further about our motivations for seeing this and our preconceptions, I think,
and
after...
our post-conceptions.
Yes, and our post-conceptions.
Yes.
And any mid-conceptions that might happen.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Let's do this.
Let's go.
Okay.
Hey, Gila.
Hey, Rob.
Are we home?
We are home. We are in our home.
We're home.
We're home.
We're home, and we have just seen Rocketman.
Or Rocketman, as I keep insisting on calling it.
Nice Jewish boy. His name is Elton Rocketman.
It's stylized as one word. Rocketman.
Rocketman.
What'd you think?
Oh, it was terrible. It was awful. Everyone should be ashamed. No, it was actually very, very lovely.
So,
what did you think?
I quite liked it.
Broad strokes.
I quite liked it. We had talked briefly before going in. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is my favorite song in the world.
Your favorite song, period, not just your favorite Elton John song?
It is my favorite song. It has been my favorite song since I heard Elton John perform it with the Electric Mayhem. I saw him play it when I saw him and Billy Joel on the face-to-face tour at the Great Western Forum in Los Angeles in 2001. Not that I'm bragging. He hit the first note of the intro, and I burst into tears. So I don't believe it would be a spoiler to say that the opening credits and the slugs for the production company and stuff are orchestrated to the strains of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I grabbed your hand as soon as I heard those two notes come in.
Yes.
I didn't cry.
Talking of spoilers, again, our standard warning, I think, if you haven't seen this movie yet and want to, and don't wish it spoiled, wait until after you've seen it to listen to the rest of this. Because we're going to go through the whole thing.
We are going to go through the whole thing.
And should we talk about the theater?
We could talk about the theater.
The particular cinema in our neighborhood.
So we have been on a bit of a hiatus from seeing movies. Mm-hmm. We're back, though. And in our absence, the theater in our neighborhood has been remodeled, and now it's, reserved recliner seating.
Yes, which is a total upgrade. It was, when we started going to it together, it was a box standard, uncomfortable movie theater seating.
It was a bit janky, can we say?
It was a bit janky. Now it is comfy.
And leather, luxurious push-button recliners.
Maybe a leatherette.
Well, I stuck to it, so I'm wearing a skirt, and I...
Yes, me too. Well, not that I was wearing a skirt, I was wearing shorts, but...
It's got a button, and it reclines. The only complaint I would register is that you can't lift the armrests.
Yeah.
They have cute little tables on them, but you can't lift the armrests.
Yeah, they've got those half tables like you see in schools, and you can swing it out of the way, but you can't get rid of it entirely, so... You can't do the without the armrest in between because I guess think of the scandal.
It is hard to be hand-holdy in this particular configuration.
Yes.
But apart from that,
it was, I mean, you could tell it's one of those things that a theater is doing to, like, please God, somebody come see our freaking movies, tear yourself away from your streaming services and piracy and what have you, and come look at a movie in the theater again. They did that, but they didn't reinforce the soundproofing in the theater. So while we were watching Rocketman and going through this journey with Elton John, John Wick was in the next room over blowing shit up, and
for the third time, I hear.
For the third time. And, you know, no shade on John Wick. He's a fine actor and does lovely work and a good assassin, but he's loud.
He is loud.
He's loud, and he should maybe think of the people watching other movies next door and maybe try and blow shit up a little more quietly for number 4.
I am curious, though, if the soundproofing is any different downstairs. You know, this is one of those situations where theaters 1 through 5 are on the main level, and 1 through 4, whatever. There are some theaters upstairs and some theaters downstairs. We were in Auditorium 7, which is on the upstairs.
Yes. So anyway.
I mean, I will say I am a lot more confident now that we're not bringing home bed bugs from that theater.
That's true. Yeah, it is a nice upgrade, and it was a nice experience. They also fixed the claw machine where an earlier time when we went, I want to say 2 years ago.
2 years ago on the 4th of July, when we went to see Wonder Woman.
Yes, we went to see Wonder Woman with Gal Gadot. Then we went to this claw machine that has a whole bunch of rubber ducks in it.
Play till you win.
You try and get the rubber duck that you want, and they're all different hats on them and different costumes on them and what have you. And they're cute little rubber duckies. But when you get one, then the game shuts off.
Or so it's supposed to.
Or so it's supposed to, because this last time we were there, it dropped us a duck and then kept going as if it didn't, because the sensor in the thing that detects whether or not you've dropped a duck was malfunctioning. And I knew exactly what the problem was because I used to be in the arcade business. You know, I had no access or desire to fix it. But so basically we kept playing this thing, and we ended up leaving with like 5 ducks?
5 or 6.
Before we just got tired of playing it and walked away. And we gave a duck or two away to like kids we passed.
Kids dining, like kids eating on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Not off the sidewalk, but kids who were like eating outside.
Mm-hmm. But we came home with a handful that are still scattered around the house.
Yes. Tonight we got one.
Yeah. So they fixed it.
But
it was still a good movie-going experience, even though we didn't totally raid the machine's stock of rubber duckies.
So, Rocketman. Oh, also, just real briefly, there were like 8 trailers on this movie.
Yeah.
I'm not going to decry the proliferation of trailers. This is not that podcast. I will say a couple of them looked like interesting movies that I'd like to see. There's a trailer for a movie with Melissa McCarthy and Tiffany Haddish and Elizabeth Moss.
Yeah, where they're like gangsters in Old Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, or like their husbands are gangsters and they're in prison and they're not getting enough kickbacks from the mob, so they become the mobsters. It looks interesting, and also I would pretty much follow Melissa McCarthy and Tiffany Haddish anywhere.
Generally, I would agree. I don't know, that one didn't seem to grab me so much, but
there are a couple.
I tend to not dig the organized crime gangstery stuff. Really, I think I'm immune. But no, there was that one. There were the trailers that you would understand why they put them on Rocketman, because like the one about the fellow who writes Beatles songs because suddenly no one else remembers the Beatles.
Mm-hmm. Right, like that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a movie about music.
There were a lot of explodey trailers.
There were a lot of explodey trailers, which
did not.
Yeah, it didn't seem as connected to the theme of this movie.
I mean, I'm wondering if it was a sop to. The assumption, I'm guessing, was that it was a sop to straight guys who got dragged to this movie by their women's.
Yeah, I could see that. And the ones listening forlornly to John Wick blowing shit up in the next room.
Exactly.
Those were the trailers. And the film. Like, going into this, I didn't have a whole lot of preconceptions, except I did listen to Elton John's interview that he did with the fella who does the podcast Disgraceland.
I haven't listened to it yet.
What's the guy's name?
Jake Brennan.
Yeah, I've only recently been introduced to this podcast by you, and I'm enjoying it. But yeah, he managed to interview Elton John, and they were talking about this film mostly, and it seemed interesting. It got me more interested in seeing this film than I was. I'm not like an Elton John diehard fan, but I really like his music. There's a lot that he's done that I really, really enjoy. more than a lot of the background noise. But like I don't think I own any of his albums or anything like that. So yeah, I got interested in seeing this, and I was a bit wary because Elton John produced the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a movie that somebody produces about themselves, there's the danger of getting a little close to like Tommy Wiseau doing The Room territory.
Right. I mean, I don't think it got too valedictory until the ending, when they typically in a biopic do the "Where Are They Now" bit.
Right.
Which often can be valedictory.
Often it can be. I've still not seen Bohemian Rhapsody.
Nor have I.
But everything I hear about the movie seems to paint it in a certain light, in that it wasn't as good at what it tried to do as Rocketman is. I'll still see Bohemian Rhapsody at some point, but you know, I'm not as excited about that. But I wasn't totally sure what to expect going in, but I liked it. It was solid.
I liked it quite a bit. There were parts of it that were non-linear in ways that I wasn't expecting.
Mm-hmm.
And there were also a couple of parts where it's not a musical qua a musical.
Right.
With that said, there are a couple of musical set pieces.
Yeah, they kind of go into numbers. And they use those as like transitions from like part of his life to part of his life. And the way they use it is interesting.
In general, I quite liked it. Knowing now that Elton John produced it, which I don't think I knew going in,
mm-hmm.
there are parts where I was about to poke you and be like, it's not subtle. But Elton John you don't think subtlety when you think Elton John.
No, it's never really been his brand.
Nope.
Yeah. Although to hear and I recommend, if you're interested in Elton John and or this movie, I recommend hunting down the episode of the Disgraceland podcast, which I think was 2-3 weeks ago.
It was a couple weeks ago. It was an intermediary episode.
Yeah. So early June.
Yeah.
Yeah, check that out, because I seem to remember him saying in that interview that even though he was a producer, he basically just let the movie people do what they wanted without like reeling them in or whatever. But shall we? Yeah,
let's do it.
Okay, there's the plot summary from the Wikipedia article here.
Can I actually throw one thing in here?
You can throw one thing in here.
I'm going to throw one thing in here really quickly.
It's Wikipedia. You can throw anything in.
Fantastic. If the hair team doesn't get nominated for some kind of award for this.
Right. Because no one's hair looks like 70s, 80s Elton John's.
It was amazing what they did.
The hair and the costumes.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you've got to replicate not only what Elton John physically looked like, but the stuff he was wearing. I mean, we both kind of giggled during the end credits when Bob Mackie got like a half a screen long series of credits for all the original designs of Elton John's costumes and like permission to use them and stuff.
But they also did a bunch of side-by-sides, and one of the side-by-sides was a costume from the movie up next to him in The Muppet Show.
Yeah. I was hoping they'd get the Muppet Show stuff in there somehow.
And they sort of did.
Yeah.
But it also, sometimes you wonder, when Elton John is hanging out at home, does he wear a t-shirt and sweatpants? And according to this movie, no. No, never.
The one thing that bugged me,
mm-hmm.
the 3 actors who played Elton John,
mm-hmm.
There was a fellow who played him during most of the film, and then 2 younger versions, like a young adult version and then a little kid version. They blacked out the middle of their front teeth to give them all the Elton John tooth gap.
Oh my God, I was afraid I was alone in noticing that.
You were not, because especially on the big screen, and we had good seats, like it's very obvious that these people just have a black line drawn in the middle of their front teeth. I mean, I don't know how you could do that as a convincing effect unless you bring like CGI into it. It didn't sell as much as the rest of the physical transformations.
I thought young Elton
mm-hmm.
looked more like Ron Howard.
Yeah. Okay, I brought up the cast page here.
Okay.
Just go through this really quick. Taron Egerton played Elton John, adult Elton John. It looks like Kit Connor was the adolescent version, and Matthew Ilesley was the child.
Okay. He did remind me of like little Ronnie Howard in The Music Man.
Yeah. There aren't really much in the way of like big Hollywood names in this movie, apart from Bryce Dallas Howard. And the rest of them were actors.
Right.
I recognize Jimmy V from Doctor Who playing the little person who lived in the in the Flophouse with him because he's played aliens in Doctor Who.
Right. And the guy who played John, was he on Downton Abbey?
At some point, you're going to have to explain to me what Downton Abbey is.
It's a house.
Okay.
Good. Glad we had this conversation.
It's not someone's name?
It's no.
Okay.
No. It's a British estate. You know, they have names.
I suppose so, though it does sound like it could be a British person's name.
It does. And the problem is that every time you write Downton, everything wants to autocorrect it to downtown, and it's not Downtown Abbey.
Wasn't she a VJ on MTV?
Wubba, wubba, wubba.
Yes. So, Rocketman.
Rocketman. Okay, so my first question is, and I actually asked this, when did Bryce Dallas Howard corner the market on playing bitches?
So that's what you took from her performance in this movie.
Uh-huh.
Bryce Dallas Howard, I mostly recognize her from Black Mirror, from one of their better episodes.
Yes.
And a terrible Jurassic Park movie.
Was that the one where she was running in heels?
Yeah, she was running in heels and she was dressed like Maud Lebowski and it was terrible.
So I primarily know Bryce Dallas Howard, and I say this... The Help. I saw her in The Help.
Who did she play?
A mean white lady. A racist, mean white lady. So basically, I was getting a lot of Hilly, except she had a British accent instead of a Southern accent.
Okay.
And then near the end of the movie, they had put her in some age makeup, and holy shit, that was distracting. No,
it looked. She just looked swollen. It looked like. It looked like she was having a reaction to like a bee sting or something.
Yeah. Like she had eaten something she was allergic to, and was just.
I don't know if maybe they were trying to go for like Elton John's mom actually looked like that. But I have not seen pictures of Elton John's mom, so I don't know.
I mean, speaking as a larger person, I think I looked younger before I lost some weight. I think that's a fair assessment. I think I look a bit older now. So I don't think going for size and age makeup was necessarily the best choice.
Well, it was a decision.
It was a decision. The age makeup on her husband was great. I thought they aged him very well.
Yeah.
I don't know what they did to her.
Yeah, I don't think we mentioned they played Elton John's parents. Bryce Dallas Howard and other dude. I wasn't expecting that character to stick around. You weren't expecting the mom to stick around?
No, I wasn't expecting the man we saw her hot and heavy with in a car parked outside the house to stick around and become Elton's stepfather.
Well, I'm guessing that's maybe what happened in real life.
I'm guessing. I didn't particularly know that, so.
Fair enough.
Apropos, well, okay. So when I was little, there was a book in our elementary school library called Before They Were Stars. And it had like biographical thingies and childhood pictures of people who were famous when this book came out in like 1978. Gilda Radner, Elton John, Leif Garrett. So, I had seen the pictures of like little boy Elton John. And it was pretty impressive. I really liked... Okay, let's just get into what happened. That scene where his mom made him turn the lights off while he was reading the sheet music. So he turned his flashlight on.
Yeah.
And began conducting with it, and all of a sudden he had a tuxedo on with his pajamas.
Yeah.
And
that was very cute.
It was very cute.
And also, I think most people have done that sort of thing where you're told to go to bed, and so you have to turn your light off, but you've got a flashlight under the covers, whether you're reading books or doing whatever.
Yeah. Of course. Or try to read by your nightlight. Did that.
I once I used to disassemble things and tinker with them. That will shock you to learn
this is my surprised face, Rob.
And there was legitimately a time where I had one flashlight propped under my chin so I could see what I was doing. So while I was disassembling my other flashlight under the covers.
Yeah, that scans. That scans.
So, Rocketman.
Rocketman. So, as I have mentioned before, real big Elton John fan.
Mm-hmm.
I had high hopes. I was not disappointed. And it was also interesting to try to figure out what music they were going to use when.
Yeah. The choices they made, it's very like upfront in the story that Elton John did not write lyrics. Bernie Taupin did. But yet they're using those lyrics to illustrate Elton John's life, and he's singing them in the first person. You know,
Yep.
it's a device, and it's interestingly used.
I would agree.
I want to jump into the plot summary here.
Go ahead.
And we can skim this and skip through it because it's really long, and our evening is not.
You're in the driver's seat, my dear.
Okay. Well, plot from Wikipedia as of today. Dressed in a flamboyant devil's outfit, Elton John enters an addiction rehabilitation session and begins to recount his life in a flashback. This is your framing story. And he does this, you see him doing the slow motion run in this fantastic bright orange and red plastic suit with wings and horns on like a swim cap on his head that snapped under his chin, and the heart-shaped pink glasses with
Rhinestones around the outside.
around the rims, yeah.
The thing that I was getting from that outfit wasn't devil. It was Phoenix.
Yeah, I that's interesting because like a lot of the outfits they showed, especially when they showed them side by side at the end of the film, you realize that they're not the exact outfits. Like they're not exactly replicating the originals, but they're doing things with what they're
Absolutely. In much
with
the
their
same way
choices.
that Taron Egerton didn't try to do exact impressions of Elton John in the singing.
right, which is also something that like I think serves this film well because he's got a good singing voice. He doesn't have Elton John's voice. Nobody has Elton John's voice.
Exactly.
But like the clips I've seen from Bohemian Rhapsody of Rami Malek talking and singing and whatnot, like it's very obvious that he's trying to do a very good impression, but it just looks impression-y, whereas this looks like an actor playing a role.
And I'm also glad he didn't lip sync because you know what happens in musical biopics when people lip sync.
Yes.
Jennifer Lopez happens.
Jennifer Lopez happens, and then she gets the idea
And
that
she sees
can-
her singing. She sees herself in this movie. This beautiful voice is coming out of her mouth, and she's like, "Oh wait, that was me. No, it was not. That was not you. You don't sing. Stop it." Sorry, I have feelings.
Well, or kind of like when Jamie Foxx did a Ray Charles impression and then kept doing that impression, but like outside of that film. And he's like, I'm a singer now. I'm doing a Ray Charles impression. It was upsetting.
It was upsetting.
Wasn't good for anyone. But
No.
but so yeah, he does the songs justice. He is singing well. He is putting on a really good performance.
And he had some of like Elton John has some facial tics when he performs. That those were there.
Yeah.
Which I found very interesting.
Yeah, this dude obviously studied the
Hard.
source material
It's
hard.
very impressive.
But it still didn't come off like one of the guys at Universal Studios dressed like some movie star who's long since dead and trying to put on an impression for you.
Exactly.
No, it was a solid musical performance and regular performance when there weren't songs going on. He was good at both types of acting.
Yes, I was very impressed.
So he's in that sort of group session, and he starts talking about his childhood, and you see the toddler who's playing little Reginald Dwight, Elton John's birth name, like waving at him from the corner, and then he gets up and follows him as the little kid version of Elton John starts singing "The Bitch Is Back."
The thing I really liked about that piece is it opens, they walk through this wall and all of a sudden they're in Pinner, in
Right.
Elton John's hometown.
Yeah, in the town of his youth, as all the people are dressed in clothes from that era and stuff, and eventually, like all the people from the group session go with him, but eventually they just disappear, and he's left alone looking around, and then the focus of the film shifts to little Elton, And every so often flashes forward to him talking in this group session. And while he's talking, he's taking off more and more of the devil outfit or Phoenix outfit.
Yeah. Of the performance outfit.
The performance outfit.
And one thing that was really interesting to me in that first number when they did the Bitches Back is there was a lot of dancing all over the place.
Yeah.
And the color saturation on the town and on the people.
Very, very good use of color grading.
They just dialed it down a little bit. The only person who was in full color was Elton John.
Yeah, both Elton's John.
Both Elton's John, yes.
Both adult Elton John and little Reggie Dwight were in full color. And it was a very good effect. But then little Reggie gets called in to dinner by his mom. And then you're in just sort of regular movie mode. Mm-hmm. But it was a very good way to transition that.
Yes. I wanted to say color saturation. I was very proud of myself for remembering that term.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well pronounced too.
Saturation.
I might clip that out and make it my new ringtone for you. So from Wiki, in 1950s England, young John, born Reginald Dwight, is cared for by his cold mother Sheila and more caring grandmother Ivy. His father Stanley is mostly absent from the home while serving in the Royal Air Force. Reginald shows interest in playing the piano and shows that he has the ability to hear music and instantly play it perfectly on the piano. Reginald hopes to play something for his father on his return, but when Stanley returns home, he takes no interest in his son or his talent for music. This was interesting. I mean, his dad and his mom were, I think, both well played. Mm-hmm. I did know going in that Elton John, like, for the rest of his grandmother's life, he held her in great affection, and like he put her up in his mansion after all his success, and like she was living with him right up until I think she passed. Mm-hmm. But no, there was nothing like that about his parents. It did seem like that was the story that was being told here. Mm-hmm. Where his parents both, like his mom just wanted to go out and party, and his dad was just stiff upper lip RAF boy, who came home and was apparently into jazz and into music, but this didn't lead to any sort of connection with his son.
And just, don't touch my records, don't talk when you're in here. When are you going to hug me?
Oh God, Yeah, that is a repeated theme where Elton John was never really hugged by his father as a kid, mm-hmm. and craved that, like, any sort of affection at all. And the actor who played him as a kid, I mean, that kid's going places.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And not just because he said bitch a lot at, like, age 7 or whatever he is. No, he was a fine actor.
He was a fine actor. I was very impressed.
Reginald soon begins taking formal lessons with the support of his grandmother, leading him to study at the Royal Academy of Music. Stanley eventually abandons his family after Sheila has an affair with another man. This being, what was his name? Fred?
Fred.
Yeah.
I feel good about Fred.
Yeah, Fred. This guy with a big, totally 50s sort of pompadour thing going on. And who ends up being his stepfather for the rest of the movie. But, his father leaves, and while he's leaving, you hear him shouting that, you stuck me with that kid, and now I finally have an excuse to get away from this, and, like, he'd never wanted to be there.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, little Reggie's watching this out the window. Now he's sort of teenage Reggie?
Ish, like
maybe...
Preteen,
like maybe
12, 14?
Maybe 13, 14-ish.
Yeah.
And he's watching this happen out the window while his grandmother sits on the bed next to him and comforts him. It keeps flashing forward to him talking about this stuff. Like, first he's latter day Elton John in the group session. At first he's like being cocky about it and like, oh yeah, I got hugs from my father all the time. He loved me so much.
I had a very happy childhood.
Yeah.
My father loved his family and music.
Mm-hmm.
And he hugged me all the time.
And you can see sort of the layers of bullshit strip away as they keep flashing forward to him speaking more honestly about what happened.
The thing that I was really curious about was whether it was actually like a group session or whether it was going to turn out to be he was imagining all these people. They were, I thought maybe it was going to also be a bit like DeLovely where they were other characters in the story. I was wrong. This was a legitimate group of people sitting there. I just didn't
It was not Kevin Kline and the Angel of Death.
It was not Kevin Kline and Jonathan Pryce as the Angel of Death. No, that is true.
No, but it was well used. Later, Reginald takes up an interest in rock music artists such as Elvis Presley and begins performing in local pubs. There's a great scene where the kids in the Royal Academy of Music playing the piano with the rest of the kids doing, this band, but he's totally got the Elvis hair and he's trying to do the Elvis sneer and like the shoulder stuff as he's playing the piano. He's got the little bow tie on.
This little ginger kid with Buddy Holly glasses and like a straight up Elvis hairdo. And it was, oh my God, it was amazing.
And the music teacher is just looking at him strangely.
Yeah, it was good. And then the transition from like early teen Elton to older Elton.
Yeah, to I guess
or
adults.
Reggie at that point.
Yeah, I guess adult Reggie. Yeah,
he was going to be playing Saturday night in a pub, and the one thing I noticed about this was they said this is Sheila and Fred's kid.
Yeah,
I noticed that.
Yeah, Fred being the stepdad, but later he also calls him dad later in the movie.
Yeah.
So
these are my parents.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, Dad. Stuff like that. It was good.
Yeah. So yeah, they've got little Reggie going up to sing while they're having a meat raffle. Which
a meat raffle down the pub, which was a thing you did in Britain, I guess.
Yeah. If you've ever been to a British pub meat raffle, let us know. Send us an email because I want to hear about what that was like.
Yes, email us at watches@modern.technology. We want to know about meat raffles.
Yes, because I don't really go to bars, but if I did, would there be meat auctions going on?
I think it depends on what kind of bar you're going to. I have never been to a bar with a meat raffle, or certainly not that kind of meat raffle.
Oh, hey now.
Hey now.
But yeah.
And so that it turns into a production number of Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting.
Mm-hmm. And adolescent Reggie starts singing Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting while there's a bar fight going on in this pub, and someone gets thrown through a window, smashing it, and then he leaps out through the window, and like through a nice bit of camera movement, it scrolls off of young Reggie and onto older Reggie, completing the song with a bunch of people on a fairground. There was this. This is one of the numbers where it got like the most numbery. I think like he starts dancing with different groups of people, and there's one group of like black kids, and they're all dancing to ska music. Like it's Saturday night, but it's like a ska.
It was kind of like a skiffle ska type situation
type thing, and then there's a bunch of
Indian people.
Yeah, Indian East Asian people, and it gets a little like sitar-y, and it was a lot. It was a lot, and it's one of those. It seemed like one of those moments where like just I've got these ideas for a number, and it doesn't really match what's going on. But what the hell?
It was sort of like the Broadway melody moment of Rocketman,
right?
That number doesn't fit anywhere in the movie, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's there and it's cool.
Yeah.
And it also introduces Taron Egerton singing. He gets introduced in the middle of a song, so like you've got his voice, and it helps you accept. Okay, this is Elton still. Exactly. So it works. It does the job.
It does the job.
Yeah. He begins performing in local pubs. Reginald then joins a band, Bluesology, which is playing in the pub at the end of Saturday night because he ends up back in the pub, and he's got this band with him, and they play the end of Saturday night. And going back to the plot here, as an adult, Reginald and his band are hired to play backup for a touring American jazz band, and Reginald learns from one of the singers that if he wants to become famous, he has to write some songs, change his name, and put his old life behind him and start anew. There was an interesting quote by one of the singers, because they're backing up black bands from America who are overdoing just this tour of soul music, and the guy tells him like. Because he asks him something like, how does a
fat kid from Pinner named Reginald Dwight become a songwriter?
Or become a soul musician,
right?
Or something like that. And the singer, who I don't know if they were portraying a real singer
or an
amalgamation or an original character or what, but he's like, oh yeah, my name used to be like Ronald Jones,
something like that,
or something like that, and. He said something like, it's not just changing your name. You have to kill the person you were meant to be in order to be the person that you want to be. Mm-hmm. Which is a strange way to put that.
Uh-huh. A little violent, I think.
A little violent, but it does all kind of stick together. I mean, speaking as someone who did a name change on myself, like it was part of just expressing my true and best self to the world, and it did count for a lot. Like it wasn't just something on a piece of paper changed. It was an aspect of myself that I was presenting to the world that felt more me, and that. I don't know if there's a better way to put that.
But is the you who you are still contains part of the you who you were?
Absolutely.
You didn't put your old self out to pasture and become somebody completely new.
Yeah, no, there was no self-murder involved.
Well, I'm glad of that.
I didn't kill any of myself to do it. It was more just making this thing that represents me in the world, my name, more closely represent who I was and am.
Yes.
And so I do understand the value of that, and it does mean a great deal to me. And I think it's interesting because people in the performance industry, singers, actors, artists, whatever, often have to change their name because, like, say there just happens to be someone else with their name who is more successful,
or who was there
first, and then they've got to figure out something to call themselves. Then there are the people who take a name that maybe they didn't already have in mind. And I don't know how true to life this was, but he wanted to be Elton because one of the other guys in his band was called Elton Dean. And he's like, I'm going to change my name to Elton Dean. And Elton Dean's just like, fuck off. So he keeps Elton, but then while he's in the
musician,
the music industry dude's office, he's like, oh, your name's Elton. Elton what? And then he looks on the wall and there's a picture of the Beatles with a spotlight, a movie magic spotlight in on John Lennon. He's like, Elton John. And so he's Elton John.
There is one little thing that happened on the tour that we need to highlight.
Okay.
One of the singers.
One
of the male singers.
Snogs him.
Pushes him up against the wall and snogs him.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, okay, that's a thing that happened. Moving on.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, it told the story it needed to.
Exactly.
Which is good, because, you do, especially with a story like Elton John's, as is portrayed later in the movie, he was kind of closeted, he married a woman, but later it became known that he was gay. Spoiler alert. Yeah, you hear about people who dealt with all kinds of stuff figuring that out, and whether or not that's how it happened for Elton John, it was an important part of the story.
Absolutely.
And it also comes back later. Not his gayness, but that particular snog.
Yes.
But yeah, so that happened. He takes the name Elton John.
And then so when he's in this music office, he takes the name Elton John, and then the guy says, try writing some music. He says, I can write music. Make something up on the spot. Turns out to be the melody of Candle in the Wind, but we don't know that.
Right.
And he said the manager guy hands him an envelope and says, write some music to go with these lyrics. The lyrics are written by Bernie Taupin.
Yeah. And as I think Elton John mentioned this in the Disgraceland interview, but also it's been part of just the origin story forever, is that he basically, the record company dude had this stack of hopeful songwriters who were sending in these big envelopes, and he basically just grabbed one out of the middle of a pile at random, handed it to Elton John, said, see if you can do something with this, and it was Bernie Taupin. And so it was total chance that one of the most iconic and successful singer-songwriter duos in all of rock history, it was just pure dumbass luck.
Yeah. In the movie, the first collaboration that really happens is Border Song. I don't know how true that is, but I like the idea because I love that song.
Yeah. It was they were obviously especially when he was younger, Elton, but they obviously just use songs that fit whatever they're saying at that point in the movie. I don't think there was any real adherence to when songs came out. I mean, he definitely was not singing the bitches back when he was 8 years old. But
No.
Okay, so going to the plot summary on Wiki, Elton begins writing music and tries to find success with Dick James Publishing Company under the management of Ray Williams. Dick, I think, being the younger. No,
Dick is the guy with the cigar.
Dick is the older guy with the cigar. You're right. And Ray Williams is the younger guy who is like, come on, you gotta go with these guys. They know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So Williams introduces Elton to the songwriter Bernie Taupin, and the two, is it Taupin?
I thought it was Taupin. But I don't know.
Bernie.
Let's just say Bernie. Bernie T.
as opposed to my pal Bernie S.
Uh-huh.
The two quickly form a friendship. Elton's homosexuality is revealed by his former partners in the jazz band. This was a scene which he and Bernie
the record company convinces them to move in together.
Right. But I like how their meeting was portrayed because Elton he brings home this envelope. It's got Sheriff Star drawn on the envelope, and it's just full of these songs. And he takes home these songs and he starts writing music to them. And then you see him in a cafe, and it's the first time he's meeting Bernie in person, and they start talking back and forth. And then you see them walking around and talking and laughing and just really hitting it off.
So wait a second. It was like they had their first meeting over tea, and then they talked for a few hours, and then they built a lifelong relationship.
Oh my God, that's our origin story.
Right?
Does this mean we should be singing and songwriting, or?
I think it means we're supposed to be creative together, and we're doing that.
Oh, well, good. Except they were not a couple.
They were not a couple. That is literally addressed and dispensed with in approximately 30 seconds. And Bernie finds out Elton's gay and is only upset that he didn't know. Yeah. Is only upset that Elton didn't tell him.
And later they're talking and Elton tries to go in for a kiss and Bernie's like, I love you, man, but not like that. And they're like, okay. And they get back to work. Yeah, I really like how that whole thing was portrayed. I thought, sweet story.
Very sweet.
But yeah, so he and Bernie are in the jazz club somewhere, and two of the people he was backing up, the Black Soul Singers, are there.
The one who was talking about killing your former self, and the one who kissed him.
Right. So they're all catching up, and then they're like, oh yeah, things are going well, and Elton's got a girlfriend because they moved into this flop house with this blonde woman, Arabella was her name, Arabella, whose house it was, and a couple other people, one of which is Jimmy V, Doctor Who alien. They through discussion, it's she's his new girlfriend, and the other singer who had kissed him during that tour was like, well, what about the fact that you're, and he drops a hard F,
which we're not going to do here.
No,
but we don't do that sort of thing.
But it boils down to what about you're gay, and that's when Bernie looks surprised and he's like, well, are you? And he's just, I don't know. Would it be a problem if I was? And Bernie's like, no. They keep working, and Elton's kind of agonizing over whether he should tell Arabella that he's gay.
Eventually he does.
She
does not take it well.
No, she throws all his shit out the window and screams about how terrible he is. And so they end up back at Elton's mom and stepdad's house.
And grandma.
And grandma's house.
And his mother's complaining about they can't ask her to do everything. She can't do everything. And Bernie says, here, I wrote this. Mm-hmm. And he's upstairs trying to shave, and he hears Elton working out this song. Mm-hmm. Which is your song.
Which of my songs?
Ha ha.
No, he's working out your song, and Bernie can't even shave. He has to come back down and listen to it.
And everyone is just standing there listening, and then you see them in the recording studio, and Ray is crying. Ray's crying, Bernie's crying, everybody's crying. As much as so much of this movie is non-linear and non-literal, I cannot imagine what it must have been like in that moment. That song is so powerful.
It really is.
And, you can only imagine, did they know they had lightning in a bottle at that moment? Mm-hmm. Well, the record company seems to think so, because then they send them to Los Angeles.
Yeah. Your song is a powerful song. I mean, Moulin Rouge was a fun movie, but not a high-quality one. But it is elevated by Ewan McGregor singing your song to Nicole Kidman, who is generally the epitome of bland, but manages to emote in response to that song. Yeah, where are we now?
We're in LA.
Yeah, we're in LA at the Troubadour in Los Angeles.
Okay, so Tate Donovan.
Mm-hmm.
Tate Donovan, who plays the owner of the Troubadour.
Right.
Normally, I would say it was a lazy performance on relying on a one-note gay stereotype. However,
he's playing the owner of the Troubadour in 1970s Los Angeles.
Not what I was going to say, but also true. This is going to sound like a weird tangent, but just bear with me.
Go for it.
The same man cut my grandmother's hair every week, cut, colored, styled my grandmother's hair every week from 1965 until 2004 when she died. That's him. It's eerie. Seriously, like the hair, the face, the everything. So it was creepy how straight on this was. No pun intended. It was creepy how spot on this was. And yeah, I'm the only other person who will understand what I'm saying is my mom. So she's going to need to see this movie soon because I need to talk about this with her. Yeah, so that was all I was thinking about when Tate Donovan was on screen was Mr. Leonard. Yeah. And yeah.
The main thing I was getting from Tate Donovan's performance was I kept hearing Pauly Shore.
Huh.
I kept hearing Pauly Shore doing like a fey gay stereotype voice, which I think he's done once or twice in his career. Mm-hmm. But it was not Pauly Shore, it was Tate Donovan.
It was Tate Donovan.
You could tell it wasn't Pauly Shore because I stayed in the movie theater.
Touche.
So at first Elton is nervous, but the audience is impressed with his performance. At an after party at Mama Cass's home in the Hollywood Hills, Elton feels abandoned when Topin leaves him to spend time with a woman.
Okay, but can we back up for a second and
course.
talk about the performance sequence?
Oh, that was, yeah. Please describe this.
Okay. So Elton is getting out on stage. First, he's freaking out because Bernie has told him who's in the house. Neil Diamond is in the house and a bunch of other famous people.
Mm-hmm. And he locks himself in a toilet stall.
And then Ray comes in and yells at him. He's like, you have to get out there. You have a contract. Mm-hmm. So he goes. And he moves into the performance slowly, begins singing Crocodile Rock, and then the whole room is just transported. And Elton John would do like handstands on the piano. Mm-hmm. And there's this moment where he goes in to do that, and all of a sudden he's just floating. Mm-hmm. And everyone is floating. And there are these moments in performance where everything is transformative.
Yeah.
And you feel everyone coming along with you. Mm-hmm. And I've had moments like that, but like when I was leading services, it's not performance, and it's this moment where like you're representing people and they're all coming along with you. But yes, these moments where everyone is moved together.
Yes.
And I have never seen it portrayed that well. It was incredible.
Absolutely. That totally, you've totally nailed it, because yeah, I felt that too in moments when I was performing or when I was up in front of a crowd, even just like emceeing at the Hope Conference or doing stuff. Every so often when you're performing, if you know things are going well and everything just clicks and you're in that zone, and any sort of performer listening to this is totally nodding their head right now and knows what we're talking about. And yeah, it's one of those feelings that it would be really hard to put into words to describe to somebody, but the way they illustrated it, just with like a flying gag, because the movie does take turns for the surreal now and then, and this is one of them, and it works, and it so drives home what was going on. It was beautiful.
It was absolutely beautiful, and at that point, there were no substances involved that we knew of. Mm-hmm. There was just them and the power of the moment. Mm-hmm. And, he's got the crowd singing along with him on the la-las of Crocodile Rock.
Yeah.
And, again, when I saw him in concert and he had us all doing that, it was
Yeah, but at that point, everyone had known the song for 30 years.
Also true. But yeah, just that moment of when you get the whole room doing the same thing and everyone is in service of that same moment. If it's art, if it's joy, if it's worship, whatever it is, just that one moment where everyone's working toward the same goal, and it's transporting and transformative.
It really is. And yeah, it was very beautifully done in the movie. Like I love in general the way this movie did things like that.
I'm nodding.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting we're on radio. I'm nodding.
But
What, you couldn't hear my ears wiggle?
yeah, no, it was great. It was well done, and one of the things that I really appreciate about this film.
So he feels abandoned at this party at Mama Cass's house. We didn't see Mama Cass. I felt cheated.
Yeah, but it was interesting. Like the crowd all sort of bled together, and you didn't really pick out individual famous people who were there. It was just crowd.
It was just crowd,
and they were talking about people who were there. But yeah, Bernie goes off with this woman he met, and Elton's just kind of off in the corner by himself, and he is approached by John Reed.
But he sings Tiny Dancer first.
Yeah, he
like they fit Tiny Dancer in as this, like...
He sings Tiny Dancer while he's like just
watching all these groupies and stuff. And
going off by himself, watching everyone pairing off and...
Feeling very alone.
Yeah, feeling very alone and you know, Tiny Dancer, there you go. But then he notices John Reed, who was watching at the club. You see him watching and appreciating the performance.
And you can see the difference in this guy already, because it's like, it's the 70s and there's a teepee in the backyard and
because
people
of
are
course
wearing,
there is.
and people are wearing jeans and fringed leather skirts and whatever. And this dude is like in a 3-piece suit.
Yeah.
He's got sinister intentions, and you can tell from the jump. He's wearing a suit.
Yes, he's wearing a suit at a hippie rock party.
What a square, man.
But he goes up and he offers Elton a drink and starts talking to him in his brogue.
It's sort of a plummy brogue.
Yes, it's a very plummy brogue. And he starts talking about you know, you have the ability to be the biggest star in the world. And you know, this is when it all starts happening for you, and kind of buttering him up. And Elton's like, so you like the song? And he's like, not as much as I liked the singer, and starts making eyes at him, and
it works.
And they go off and they have a shagging scene, and you know, which is nicely done.
Yeah, I mean it was nicely done. It wasn't salacious, and it wasn't portrayed as anything abnormal.
Yeah. Which is like the cliche of any kind of like gay love scene in a movie, even if it's something historical like this that happened and there were people that did this and they had a relationship, and there's always that cliche sort of way to go about it where they're kind of looking over their shoulders and like, is what we're doing terrible? And this didn't mess with any of that, which I appreciate.
I definitely appreciated it. There was no like squick factor.
Yeah.
It was just, these people are going to have sex now.
Yeah, it wasn't squickily done. It wasn't like luridly done. It wasn't really lewd.
There was no queeze.
There was no queeze to be found. And at the same time, Bernie's having his makey outy scene with the woman he was with. It happened, and it's nicely done. But as noted in the plot here, the two sleep together and reunite later. Reed's influence over Elton causes him to spiral into a life of debauchery as his career raises to expectations, and he becomes a successful musician, embracing a flamboyant stage persona.
I definitely enjoyed the debauchery montage. Oh my god!
Yeah, yeah. You've got to have the rock star like living to excess montage in a movie like this.
I know I keep going back to Singing in the Rain, but it kind of reminded me of that. You know, like the part in the Broadway Melody section when all the stuff is made out of cardboard.
Yeah.
And he's, you know, the gotta dance bit. It kind of reminded me of that, because it was like, hey, art. Hey, houses. Hey, whatever. And, you know, very theatrical and very like, oh, hey, a fur coat. And I liked that sequence.
Yeah.
I didn't like what was happening in the actual story. Because I didn't like what John Reed did to Elton John.
Right. But
I liked that sequence.
Yeah, and it was very stylized. Like you see him just walking past a bunch of art, and like sold labels flip onto all of them as he goes past, and like he goes into one door of an expensive car and comes out in a different flamboyant outfit out the other side, and he's the idea is he's just piles of money,
hey, drinking,
shopping like hell,
hey,
drinking
cocaine,
coke, yeah, it's all happening, and John Reed is there just at his
enabliest,
at his enabliest, yes, and because John Reed has also talked Elton into making him basically his personal manager.
Yep.
Yeah, back to Wiki. After Elton appoints him as his new manager, Reed starts to manipulate Elton and insists he come out to his mother and father as gay so they can help hide their sexual relationship from the press. Elton gets back in touch with his father Stanley, who has since remarried and has 2 sons. And this scene, oh my god. Because he goes to visit his dad, and by this time he's the famous Elton John, and his dad is just like, he goes and greets his dad, who doesn't even like handshake him really. It's just, oh, hi, you're here. And
he gives him a really like a diamond watch.
Yeah. His father's just not really reacting in any way to anything. He gives his father this gaudy diamond watch that his father is not a person who would ever wear that, and his father kind of like closes the box and puts it away like it's made of dead fish. But then the father's 2 kids from his new life show up, and they're what, like 12 ish around there, and they know who Elton John is, but he's like, here's your brother, and the kids are like half brother, and but these kids are jumping all over their dad, and they've got their arms around him, and their dad is hugging them back and carrying them. And
then he sends one of the boys in to get a record from his record collection.
Yeah. He sends one of the boys to get an Elton John record, and he comes back and hands it to Elton, and you must get this all the time, but could you sign this? And so Elton's like, okay, I'm signing an autograph for my dad. It's weird, but he takes it, and he writes to Dad, and then Dad goes,
No. It's not for me.
Yeah.
Could you write it to Arthur?
Yeah.
So he like crosses out to Dad. Oh my God.
Yeah, he's like, Arthur, he's one of my workmates, and
he's really a fan of yours. Yeah. It's not really my thing.
Yeah. So he scribbles out Dad on this autograph and writes the rest of it, and basically just realizes he's not getting any kind of connection here, and goes off, and it is so heartbreaking.
It is so heartbreaking. And then at the end, they, see him out to the car, and then his dad says to one of the little boys, "You're not wearing shoes." And he picks up the kid, and you see Elton crying in the car.
Right. One of the things Elton says to him before he leaves is like, well, looks like things worked for you the second time around. Not everyone gets a second chance. And his father's just like, yep. So, yeah, that's just not happening. And he goes back in the car where John is, who's been waiting in the car. And they're going off to this some TV performance. But Elton's just deeply fucked by this whole thing and goes, stop the car. He screams, stop the car, runs over to a phone booth, or a telephone box if you're British, and he's supposed to be on TV in like 15 minutes, but he goes to this payphone and calls his mom.
He calls his mom, and he comes out to her over the phone. And one thing that you and I were talking about recently, just in the course of our actual lives, is that if you know someone well enough for them to come out to you.
Yeah.
I have never been surprised by someone coming out to me. You know?
Yeah.
Like, if you know someone well enough for them to come out to you, you know. And his mom's like, so he's crying, he can't get the words out. Mom, I'm a homosexual. And she's like, I knew that. I've known that for years. And you think, oh, this is going to go well. And then it doesn't.
No. Because then she goes, I've known that for years, but...
I can't believe you're choosing a life where you'll never be properly loved.
Yes. You're choosing a life where you'll be alone forever. You'll never be properly loved. This is Bryce Dallas Howard at...
Herbichiest.
Yeah. Again, he's coming off that thing with his dad, and then that's what he gets from his mom. And he feels more alone than ever, and... John opens the door of the phone box, and
You think he's going to hug him because supportive, because relationship.
right, but instead he's just like, "The hell are you doing? You're on TV in 10 minutes." And
then he hits him.
Yeah. Elton's getting upset. He like pushes him away from himself, and John just clocks him one across the cheek. He goes, "Don't ever put your hands on me."
Don't ever put me in this position again.
Yeah.
Don't ever put your hands on me.
So then you see Elton in the dressing room for this TV thing, and he's putting makeup on this smack on his face, and basically gurning into the mirror, like trying to put on a happy face, practicing his great big smiles for the show.
And then medicating a bit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and then gets I think, is it Coke?
Yeah.
That he gets?
Yep.
Yeah, he gets the little tin of powder and
A little spoon.
yeah.
A little Coke spoon.
yeah, and then he takes some of that and then goes out onto the stage for his show.
Mm-hmm.
And was that
when he
was in the chicken suit?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in this big sort of feathery chicken suit with this massive headdress, and that's when Bernie, and this moment was in the trailer, or at least some of it was. Bernie goes up to him and he's like, "Don't you want to just like get rid of all this regalia and just sing and show them who you really are?" And Elton gets pissed off and he's like, "People, no one wants to pay to see Reginald Dwight. They want to see fucking Elton John." And
You write the lyrics and leave the rest of it to me.
yeah, he says that and just gets touchy with Bernie, and Bernie's just trying to help, and he
Immediately apologizes.
yeah, he immediately, like, he turns and then he comes back and he's just like, "Sorry." Bernie's, "I know," and then he goes off and does his thing. But that was also one of those moments in any sort of dramatization of real life events, or you see it in crappier fiction scripts where you have characters explaining things to each other that they know, and it comes off as a little unnatural. Like this was that moment, because he's walking down the hall with Bernie and he's like, "Oh yes, I'm just going on the greatest tour of my life while this is happening and that's happening," and
Lo, I am slain.
Yeah,
it's very Shakespearean.
Yeah, and basically saying to the audience, "So this is where we are in the continuity."
Yeah, this is
the timeline.
I don't think that the moment with his dad and the moment with his mom and the chicken suit were all at the same time, but they're all folded into each other.
Right. No, it's condensing events, I'm sure. But
So, the car that he got into after the meeting with his dad turned into the car that he was in on the way to the TV studio, but it wasn't the same moment.
Right. But it still connects it all as, like, this is the turn that Elton's life is taking.
Right.
And so he's starting to have problems with John. He's starting to hit the drugs. He's snapping at his pal. And
so the chicken suit turns into this whole series of flamboyant outfits. The world is spinning, and then he wakes up in bed and he doesn't know where he is.
Yeah, he's just. And which song was that? On the tip of my brain. Was that when he was doing Pinball Wizard?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He goes into Pinball Wizard.
The one non-Top and John song in the movie.
Right, because he sang that in the film of The Who's Tommy.
Yes. The chicken outfit was the one that was side-by-sided with the Muppet Show look.
Right.
With the Muppet Show Crocodile Rock outfit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you have not seen it, go to YouTube or whatever and find Elton John doing Crocodile Rock on the Muppet Show.
Actually, just find the entire Elton John Muppet Show episode, because it is one of the best. Yeah. It's probably top 3.
Even if, unlike us, maybe you're not a Muppet nut, still look up Elton John doing Crocodile Rock on the Muppet Show. You will not be sorry.
You will not be sorry. Also, Elton John doing Don't Go Breaking My Heart with Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
And Elton John playing Goodbye Yellow Brick Road with the Electric Mayhem, which is really just a straight up performance of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, which transformational for me, really.
Absolutely.
But we digress.
We do. And as Wiki puts this part of the movie, struggling with his parental issues as well as Reed's increasing abuse, Elton becomes addicted to alcohol, cocaine, cannabis, and sex. And because this is Wikipedia, each of those is hyperlinked, I'm assuming, to their own articles. So if you want to get to the article for alcohol, the article for cocaine, the article for cannabis, or the article for sex, you can get to them from...
I shudder to think what the Wikipedia article for sex is. I'm not suggesting you do the clicky, but just, ugh.
Yeah, no, I'm busy with this article right now.
Okay.
You can look that one up later. If you need.
Okay. Thank you.
If we'd have to start a whole new podcast, I think, if we're going to recap that one. But family show.
Family show. Except for the swears. There have been some swears.
There have been some swears. This is, as yet, the only podcast we have on the Modern Technology Podcast Network that is marked mature content because of
the last episode.
Because of the previous episode.
Yes.
Which was the 10. And that's where it got sweary, and we're not bleeping things.
Nope.
Because I ain't about that.
Nope.
But so, lonely and upset, Elton begins to have a short temper with people while still consuming drugs and alcohol, alienating those who care for him. On one occasion, Elton catches Reed cheating on him with another man. Elton breaks off their relationship, but Reed claims that he does not care as long as Elton is making him money. Then his parents show up out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. They show up for a visit. Elton starts barking at Reed like, that was supposed to be next week. What are they doing here? And Reed's like, it's next week. Because, he woke up in his own bed asking, where am I? And... so he's been
living the life of excess.
He's been living the life of excess, screwed up on drugs, doesn't know what day it is, and his family shows up. Yeah, later that day, during a house party, Elton consumes a large amount of drugs and alcohol and attempts suicide by jumping into his pool. This, again, was one of those moments where, and this was the moment where the song Rocketman comes into play, as Elton, he gets onto the diving board and in front of everyone at his party shouts, for my next trick, I'm going to fucking kill myself, and he just...
jumps into the pool.
Flops into the water. You see him sinking to the bottom of this now impossibly large pool, and at the bottom of it, in a spotlight, in a little diving suit with a bubble helmet, is
Reggie.
Is baby Reggie sitting at his head of his tiny piano, who's starting to sing Rocketman.
But he's playing the tiny piano like he's fucking Schroeder.
Right.
Like playing real music on this tiny
real
toy
music
piano.
is coming out of the tiny toy piano. And as he's sinking to the bottom and lands on the bottom with this kid, he starts singing along with it. And then you see Elton's point of view as other people start jumping into the pool, trying to make their way to him, and then he gets pulled out of the pool.
I thought that part was really beautifully done.
It was beautifully done. This was one of the parts during the movie where I was crying during it. It was very effective.
The whole sequence was really effective. They take him to the hospital. He's still singing, and then he's
still singing through this whole thing. They're putting the oxygen mask on him, and he's pulling it off so he could sing some more. And then they start they intubate him and pump water out of his lungs. And you see him watching that happen. But,
and then immediately they change him out of the clothes. They took him to the hospital, and you see him being put into something. And it turns out that he's going immediately into the Dodger Stadium performance.
Right. They put him into his baseball suit, his glittery baseball suit, and then he's at the iconic performance at Dodger Stadium.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. And it's a moment for anyone who's had that feeling of just like, everything's gone to pot, nothing's under my control.
And I'm just on this treadmill.
Yeah. And again, beautifully done. Just well-made chunk of film that. So Elton has a short-lived marriage, which ends after his homosexuality becomes obvious. This happens. He's recording something at the studio. This woman, Renata, is in the studio with him and starts talking to him and singing something with him.
Singing, Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me.
Yes. And they end up in kind of a duet, and it was earlier suggested by Reed that, we're going to have to get you a girlfriend, get someone to play it being your girlfriend, because otherwise you're going to lose all this.
Right. You
see him kind of like, he's at this point, the character of Elton in the film is craving any kind of acceptance, attention, love. You see him, you see it in his face as he's singing with Renata, like, okay, maybe this can be a thing. And then you see the wedding. You see the wedding.
You see them come out of their side-by-side bedrooms. You see them sit down to breakfast.
Yeah.
For breakfast, he pours himself about 8 ounces of vodka and covers it up with orange juice and then drinks it.
Yeah. And the two of them are just sitting across from one another at the table, just in total silence. Like she's just not meeting his gaze. He's not meeting hers. And then he's just, I'm sorry. And she just responds, I know.
And that's the end of that.
That's the end of that. And one thing Elton John did mention in his Disgraceland interview was like, you know, I think it was asked at one point if he wanted to have that in the movie. And he's like, well, yeah, it's something that happened. And it's a part of the story. It's a part of what happened is, you know, he tried to marry a woman. It didn't work because and then in one of the flash forwards to the group session, someone asks him, "Did the marriage make you happy?" And he's just, "No, I'm gay."
Stepping out of the movie for a second,
Mm-hmm.
him coming out publicly as bisexual and then later being like, psych, no, I'm really gay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that behavior helps contribute to bi erasure in a greater way.
Yes.
Because when Elton John comes out as bi,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
no,
you can understand why he did it at that point in time. You know, it was a way to kind of take the edge off. Although later he was one of the earlier ones along these lines to come out and go, "No, I am a gay man." But yeah, it's one of those things that contributed to that whole mess of like people trying to identify as bisexual and everyone else just taking that to mean, "Oh, you're gay." There's a clip of David Bowie that's you see on Tumblr a lot, which is some interviewer just saying, "You've said you're bisexual. You know what does that mean?" And he goes, "It means I'm bisexual." And she goes, "But what does that really mean?" And he's like, "I've told you." I'm paraphrasing it, but it's yeah, bi erasure is a thing. I do not appreciate bi erasure.
I also do not appreciate bi erasure.
So,
You know what I do like though is actual erasure. The band, love them.
Yeah, in another 20 years when they get their movie, I'll be there in the front row.
Bells on. So this whole sequence, I knew "sorry seems to be the hardest word" was going to happen at some point. At this point, I was just like, "Can it just happen already?" I was so ready. So yes, I was just waiting for "sorry seems to be the hardest word" to happen, and it eventually did.
Yeah, eventually it did.
And then
Elton falls out with both his mother and Topin, feeling infuriated, increasingly agitated, and depressed, well-written Wikipedians. He consumes prescription pills and alcohol, causing him to suffer from a heart attack.
But before that is when Goodbye Yellow Brick Road happens.
Yes.
The purist in me is angry that they switched the verse halves.
Well, they also they gave it to
Bernie.
They gave it to Bernie. After he and Bernie have a falling out.
Right. So, but they switched the first and second halves of the two verses.
Mm-hmm.
So the purist in me was not happy about that.
But you can see why they did it.
Yeah, I can totally see why they did it.
It fits what they were saying.
It contextualized it. The Elton John purist in me didn't like it. The movie fan in me and the music fan in me. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. I loved that segment.
Yeah?
I loved how they did it.
Yeah, no, it was
beautifully done.
Yeah. So he has a heart attack.
He has a heart attack.
He is once again rushed to the hospital, but Reed hears the news and waves it off as a mild chest infection, forcing Elton to get back on stage for his next performance. Realizing that his life is spiraling out of control, Elton leaves before the performance and finally seeks help. This is when he puts on the devil or phoenix or whatever demon outfit that you see him in at the beginning when he's running into the group session. It's for this performance at Madison Square Garden.
So he's completely ready to go.
Yeah, he's completely ready to go. He's all suited up. He gets the suit on and the sunglasses on, and then he leaves the dressing room and runs off in the wrong direction with his assistants there just going, "Hey, no." And he runs off down the hallway that you saw him run slow motion down in the beginning. He runs out of Madison Square Garden, still in this enormous feathered winged outfit.
Orange and red, feathered, beaded,
horns,
headdress,
the
whole
full
nine.
of rhinestones. And he just hails a New York City cab. He gets into the cab, though it's well cut because I don't think he could actually get into the cab with those wings.
I mean, he was sort of...
Yeah, he opens the
down.
door. He opens the door of the cab, and then in the next shot, he's scrunched into the cab and just flops back onto the seat. But that's basically Doctor Who going in and out of the TARDIS. Like, you're not going to follow him from one to the other because they have to be filmed in totally different locations. But that's when he goes to the group session in the beginning.
He goes to rehab.
Yeah,
I mean, he takes himself to rehab.
Yeah, you see the cab basically driving all the way to this rehab center out in, from New York City. You see the skyline in the background, Twin Towers and all. And then he comes up in this like this big
manor.
Yeah, manor is the word. Just on this hilly, idyllic grassland, and he checks himself into rehab.
And that was the Phoenix part of it for me, because as he's walking down the hallway, he's shedding feathers and beads like he was going to be rising again. I think that was the reason that the Phoenix imagery resonated with me so much.
Interesting. I like that. Yeah. So that basically brings it up to the film's present. So we're no longer in a flashback, but we're in this group session. And
he's no longer in the costume. He's now in a bathrobe.
Yeah. He's basically in the flash forwards to the group session. At first, he's wearing less and less of the Phoenix outfit. Then he's wearing like still Elton John sort of tracksuit with like the Puma logo in rhinestones.
Reminding me of that woman we saw on the street wearing the Adidas tracksuit dress with the logo in rhinestones, and it was epic.
The velour
floor length tracksuit dress.
Because we live in a neighborhood that has some Russian American nightclubs in it, and that sort of thing happens.
Yup.
So it's by the end of it, he's wearing
it's another day. He's wearing
it's another day. It's another day. He's wearing basically regular clothes. He's still telling his story to this group, but then as he's telling it,
everybody else shows up.
Everybody else shows up in a sort of anti-M Uncle Henry moment of like his.
He's talking in group, and they're all coming out to refute.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, the figures from his life. So Reed is there. His mom and dad and stepdad are there.
His grandmother is
His grandmother's there. I think she was first.
Yes.
Because he's like, maybe I should try to be more ordinary. And then Grandma comes out of the shadows and goes, "Oh, you were never ordinary." And then his mom and his dad show up, and his stepdad and Reed, and they all start like bickering with each other over like whose fault it is that he's like this. And
he's like, "You can't talk to me like that anymore," which is, I think, an amazing moment for anyone in any kind of therapy setting at all, to be able to like take control of your own narrative and say, I won't let you talk to me like that anymore.
Yeah.
Even to people who only exist as voices in your head. You can't talk to me like that anymore.
And
huge breakthrough.
Huge breakthrough. And then someone else shows up. It's child Elton John.
Who says...
Or child Reggie Dwight.
Child Reggie Dwight.
So he's like, "I'm Elton John." And the kid goes, "I thought you were called Reggie Dwight." And he goes to the child version of himself, and he's like, I haven't been Reggie Dwight in years.
And then child Reggie Dwight says,
"When are you going to hug me?"
And then they do.
And yeah.
Yeah.
That, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
is all I can say to that scene. And it would be so easy to film something like this, even this exact script with these exact stage directions and everything, and have it come off as horrible and saccharine and cheesy. This film pulls it off.
And one of the things I was surprised not to have heard about before was the ending, the shot-for-shot remake of the "I'm Still Standing" video.
Oh, yeah. But before all that, also Bernie Taupin is
Bernie
among
comes
the figures talking to him. But then you see him leave the room with Bernie, and they're talking, and they're like sitting on a bench outside. So Bernie's actually there visiting him.
Yes.
He's actually there visiting, and
he's written some new lyrics.
Yeah, he's written some new lyrics. He's like, "I've got to go." Elton goes, "No, don't go." And he tells Elton, "No, this is the bit you have to do yourself. But yeah, these need music," and hands him an envelope full of lyrics. So Elton takes these new lyrics, goes to the music room in the facility there.
Pulls out a sheet of lyrics.
Yeah, and he was talking to Bernie on the bench about how he was nervous. Like, what if he's crap now without the drugs and everything? And Bernie just tells him, basically, "You're being an idiot. Go,
give it a shot.
Give it a shot. Go do it." And he puts the lyric sheet on the little upright piano in the music room there, sits at it, and he pauses before his fingers hit the keys, and he's just working up the
nerve to do it.
Yeah,
and it was okay. Part of the reason I had the idea to go see this movie today is because I was talking to someone this morning, and I said, "Remember when Elton John came out of rehab and he sang 'I'm Still Standing'?"
Yeah. And that's exactly what happens, is he that's the song on the lyric sheet, and he just goes into that music, and then it cuts right into him doing the "I'm Still Standing" music video.
Yes.
Which they recreate from the actual video.
Yes.
And if you're not familiar with this music video, bring it up on YouTube.
I mean,
it's lovely.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing recreated, and it goes from that into basically the ending montage of pictures of real Elton John and the bits from his life and the updates. Like, Elton John has now been sober for what, 28 years? 28 years?
28 years.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing they didn't mention, and I think I can understand why they didn't, was part of Elton John's impetus for getting sober, was Ryan White.
Ah, yes. They didn't mention Ryan White, but they did go right into his AIDS charity work and stuff like that in the slideshow.
He's met his partner, David. Yeah. He met his husband, David. He is now loved properly.
Yes.
Oh, and he's retiring from touring to spend more time raising their sons.
Mm-hmm. And then it goes into the fun bits of like just
the side by side
costumes. And also they're playing clips from the film under the credits and doing that on the nose thing where like he comes out in the ridiculous fucking chicken suit as the costume designer credit comes up.
This is really well played.
Yeah, it was all very well played. And from all that you go into regular film credits, and we stayed in the theater because the music was awesome. And
also we stayed till the end of the credits because that's what we do.
Yeah, it's worth it.
And also,
all these people worked hard to make that movie for you.
It's really humid in New York City right now, and whether it's leather or leatherette, I was stuck to it. So we weren't going anywhere.
Yeah. So we went to see this, and the theater was mostly empty. It was a
6:20 showing on a Wednesday evening.
Yeah. It was the two of us, one other couple sitting a few rows behind, and I think two people sitting off to our right, and that was it. But even given that we saw this on a weekday evening, it still surprised me that there weren't more people to see this. But I think maybe the diehards have seen it by now.
Yeah, I would think so. And also, again, it was just a weird time in our neighborhood.
Yeah,
but I'm glad we saw it.
Yeah, I'm very glad we saw this, and I'm glad it was your idea to take the podcast in this sort of direction, because this was totally your idea, like for us to not be doing back and forth with movies we've seen, but to watch something new to both of us. And of course, it's a film podcast. We should go out and see a film.
Absolutely.
And we'll definitely be doing this more in the future.
Yay.
Although it's still my turn next time.
I know. Well, so I'm thinking, it can be your turn and my turn, and we can see a movie, something new to both of us. We can also do stuff we've both seen before.
We could.
Like our Halloween episode.
Oh, yeah. We already knew what we're doing for our Halloween episode.
Hells yeah, we do.
And we'll keep that secret for now. But but it's a good one.
So I think
Rocketman,
2 fireflies up.
2 fireflies up.
2 fireflies up for Modern Technology Watches.
Yes. Well, thank you for listening to Modern Technology Watches Rocketman. And I trust that it won't be a long, long time before the next episode.
Oh, God, you did that.
I did that.
I'm sure it won't be.
We'll catch you next time.
We'll see you at the movies.
Are we allowed to use that? I think that's taken.
I did it on the first one.
You've been listening to episode 103 of Modern Technology Watches with Gila Drazen and Rob Vincent. Go to modern.technology on the web for more info on this program, the people involved, our other podcasts, and our social media kerfuffle. Our theme music is The Promise by Torley Wong, released Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 3.0. More info at modern.technology/music. Find more from Torley at torley.com. Thank you, Torley. Content from wikipedia.org is used under Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 3.0. This podcast is released under Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 4.0, produced by modern.technology. Send us email at watches@modern.technology. Rocketman.
Burning out his fuse out here alone. My Shatner is no good.
That's okay. Neither is his.